flurry of leaders and diplomats from various countries to India to discuss the Ukraine crisis, and especially from the Western countries and its allies to discuss sanctions against Russia as well. Meanwhile, amidst all this, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov is also visiting India today.
Our Western colleagues would like to reduce any meaningful international issue to the crisis in Ukraine. You know our position. We do not hide anything, and we appreciate that India is taking this situation in the entirety of facts, not just in a one-sided way.
Liz Truss was in India, and she held a wide range of discussions, be it with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar or with NSA Ajit Doval. In all these discussions, the issue of Ukraine, of course, came up because Liz Truss had come with a certain message with regards to reducing dependence on Russia.
We want to reduce our dependence on authoritarian regimes, and I know that India and other countries around the world are likewise looking at how they improve their domestic resilience, and that is what I'm here in India.
On the other hand, the US Deputy NSA too, Daleep Singh, was in India. He held discussions again with Indian officials talking about the need for sanctions against Russia and why countries like India should also, in fact, support the Western viewpoint. Clearly, it appears that there is pressure building from the Western side to change India's position as far as Russia is concerned.
This is a moment for democracies to step up in solidarity and show that despite all of their flaws, democracies still offer the single best path for delivering dignity to all people. That's why I'm here, and look, we're consulting intensely with all of our democratic partners in a spirit of friendship and respect.
India, in fact, at the UN platforms has been abstaining from votes as far as the Ukraine crisis is concerned. And to underline the fact that India's position remains neutral as far as this crisis is concerned, India also abstained on a vote that was backed by Russia, that was pushed by Russia. In fact, as far as the Ukraine humanitarian crisis is concerned, this came up in the United Nations only last week. Many of the European countries do not view India's abstention on votes as a neutral stand that India has taken, and that's why we also heard Liz Truss talking about the issue of reducing dependence on Russia. She believes that she is not going to interfere in the sovereign decision of India, which it has taken with regards to importing discounted oil from Russia. But at the same time, she underlined how cheap imports from Russia could create a situation that could be problematic for countries, as Europe has already faced that situation.
That over time, we need to make sure that we are able to be resilient and make independent sovereign decisions. What the Russia-Ukraine crisis has shown is that Europe in particular is far too dependent on Russian oil and gas. And that has enabled Vladimir Putin to fund his war machine in Ukraine, but it's also enabled him to coerce countries in Europe. And I think we've all recognized that there is a cost to be paid for having the cheap goods and the cheap oil and gas.
Now, I was just reading a report today that in the month of March, Europe has bought, I think, 15% more oil and gas from Russia than it did the month before. If you look at the major buyers of oil and gas from Russia, I think you'd find most of them are in Europe. We ourselves get the bulk of our energy supplies from the Middle East. About 7.5%, 8% of our oil from the US.
On the other hand, if we talk about our exclusive interview with the US Deputy NSA, who in fact is also the architect of the US sanctions against Russia, He underlined that these sanctions are meant to, in fact, act as a diplomatic leverage over here against Russia to impose costs on Russia so that they stop their invasion of Ukraine. Also, as far as India is concerned, he made a point about how he believes that Russia is now the junior partner of China, and if India believes that Russia will come to India's defense if there is a breach of the LAC by China, he doesn't see that happening.
China and Russia have declared a no-limits partnership. China has said Russia is its most important strategic partner. The more that Russia becomes China's junior partner, the more leverage China gains over Russia, the less and less favorable that is for India's strategic posture. And does anyone think if China breached the line of control that Russia would now come to India's defense? I don't.
Clearly a bid by the Western nations to get India to weigh in on their side. India so far maintaining a neutral position and doing a tightrope walk between the two sides.